All right, good morning, everyone. We will bring commerce to order. Aaron is out today, so we have a new crew. Thank you, General People, for helping us out. We appreciate it greatly. We won't be execing today, so if you're here for that, sorry to disappoint, but next week, I think we will. So our first bill this morning is brought to us by Senator Ricciardi, and it is Senate Bill 280, and I will open the hearing on the bill. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. For the record, Denise Ricciardi, State Senator for District 9. Senate Bill 280FN is requiring food delivery services to secure agreements with restaurants. Senate Bill 280, an act, is a critical protection for New Hampshire's restaurants, food retailers, and consumers. Currently, third-party delivery platforms can list restaurants and process orders without their consent, leading to incorrect pricing, outdated menus, and lower quality customer experiences. This bill establishes clear guidelines requiring food delivery platforms to enter into formal agreements with restaurants before offering their services. By enacting Senate Bill 280, we ensure that businesses maintain control over their brand, food quality, and service standards. Restaurants will no longer have to deal with unauthorized delivery services that misrepresent their offerings or provide subpar service that damages their reputations. Additionally, this bill enhances consumer protection by ensuring that only authorized food providers fulfill orders, reducing the risk of incorrect deliveries or food safety concerns. By promoting fair business practices and restaurant autonomy, Senate Bill 280 strengthens New Hampshire's food service industry while ensuring transparency in third-party delivery options. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any questions? Seeing none, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Summers from the New Hampshire Lodging and Restaurant Association, please join us. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Mike Summers, the President and CEO of the New Hampshire Lodging and Restaurant Association. We had actually approached Senator Ricciardi to file this bill for us. The language before you is a piece of legislation that was actually in place from 2021 through 2023. It snuck by us that it had a sunset clause in it, and so now we are back here trying to put it back in place because it really did kind of correct a lot of problems in the system, worked really well. We have a lot of restaurants that now have agreements in place, but as those agreements expire, we are concerned that this is going to go back to where we were, which was kind of an untenable situation for a lot of businesses. One thing I would add is that we do have a slight technical correction. We were approached by DoorDash, and they have a request, and it's literally a two-word change that I think we're perfectly fine with. So if I could direct your attention to line 13 in the bill. It says currently a food delivery platform shall not arrange. What has been suggested is it should probably say a food delivery platform shall not take and arrange. So by adding those two words, it allows them some flexibility in areas outside of the restaurant world that I don't think we have any concerns with, and they seem comfortable with that slight technical change. So would ask the committee to take that as a friendly amendment. But other than that, I'm happy to try to answer any questions.
Okay. Yes, Senator Fent.
Not necessarily a question, almost a statement too. I think I was in the House when we passed this bill originally. It was Rep. Wilhelm, I believe, that introduced it beforehand. And the issue was that restaurants who had not worked with DoorDash or any of these delivery services were having drivers come in saying, "Hey, we're here to pick up order X," and they're like, "What are you talking about?" Is that kind of what the reasoning is behind this bill? Is that these restaurants are just they had no idea that people were ordering their food through these
Correct.
third-party apps?
They had no relationship whatsoever with these companies. And the real issue, which I think Senator Ricciardi touched on, is, you would have companies, and I don't want to cast aspersions, but a company would essentially have set up in, say, 2018 and 2019, they would post a menu. Well, they would never update the menu. So 3 years later, they're essentially making sales for things that aren't even on the menu. And so there was just a whole lot of just misinformation. And what it really led to was that now, because the customer doesn't really know who that or differentiate, I guess, between the restaurant and the delivery company. So now they're getting upset with their order is wrong, or it's late, or it's whatever. And at the end of the day, all of that angst and agita is just getting blown back on the restaurant business through social media and other things, and it's unbeknownst to them in the first place. So to answer your question, yes, that's exactly what was happening, but it was a lot broader than that, frankly.
Thank you.
All right, Senator McGill.
Thanks for taking my question. Thanks for shedding some light on this. These contracts are just simple, similar to the end user licensing agreements, electronically executed, click, 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 5 minutes to set up for any independent operator that wants to set it up quickly, correct?
Essentially, yes. There's like an indemnity clause and those kinds of things are all in there. But what usually they will be setting as well is, what's the fee going to be charged by the delivery company, those kinds of things. So that's all worked out in advance. So there's no real surprises for the restaurant, no surprises for the delivery company, and then the consumer knows exactly what they're getting into. So, but it covers all those areas you referenced as well as indemnity and some others.
But it is pretty much, further question. Thanks. But it is pretty much, let's face it, a take it or leave it. Big guy, little guy. They don't have a lot of negotiating power. Or does your association go to bat for the independents? And 'cause I've heard stories of it, the fee structure being a bit egregious at times.
And it can be, and I think this is where the agreement thing is incredibly important, because if you're not negotiating an agreement in advance, and if those companies are not required to have the agreement in place before they start to represent these particular restaurants, then there is no leverage on that. So then, these companies will just charge whatever they want. So by having the requirement that they have to have an agreement, then the restaurant and the delivery company have to come to some sort of an arrangement. And if one company doesn't want to come to that arrangement, there are others who will. And frankly, by having the agreement requirement in place, we actually saw some local startup companies who are competing in that space because they had working relationships with some of these businesses. So it actually created some more competition in the space, which I think was frankly good for everybody.
Okay.
For the question?
Yes.
If you'll indulge me then a little bit, since I'm a numbers guy, and you'll hear me say that fairly often. Can you just give me a percentage of the restaurants in New Hampshire that are members, what you charge for membership, and what some of the fee structures are? Just give me a quick rundown of some of the numbers.
Do we have that kind of time? So,
Well, 70% of independent restaurants are members of.
I'm not sure how relevant it is, but if you'll indulge.
I mean, we have a little over 1,300 members. Of those 1,300 members, I would say, frankly, they're all independents. We certainly have some that are franchises, but they're all technically independents in their own way.
Right.
But I would say that, probably 3/4 or more of our members are small independent restaurants or local independent restaurants, like the Common Mans of the world, et cetera. But those are all, local New Hampshire restaurants in the group. I'm not sure what else you'd like to, like the fee structure?
Well, about 100%, virtually 100% of them use one of these services, right?
I don't know the percentage off the top of my head. I wouldn't want to mischaracterize that, because, some restaurants just legitimately don't do any delivery. You can do takeout, that's all they're going to do, because they don't want to pay the fees or, whatever it might be. But of those that are participating, which is a much higher percentage than it used to be because of COVID and the spin-off of that, of those that are using it, all of them have had required to have an agreement in place up until this past year, and we've started to see it unravel a little bit.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions? All right, seeing none.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Summers. Jamie Burnett signed up. I don't know if Jamie would like to speak. Okay, yes, signed up in support. See if we have any late signups. No. All right. I'm going to close the hearing then on Senate Bill 280. And we will be in recess for 5 minutes.
Hey, Walter.
industry. Historically, visa workers have been allowed to serve alcohol, yet outdated statutory language has created confusion about their ability to deliver alcoholic beverages. This bill provides clarity by explicitly allowing any non-citizen who is legally authorized to work in the U.S. to also deliver alcohol. By passing Senate Bill 89, we would be supporting businesses, expanding the workforce, and ensuring regulatory consistency to employment laws. This change will benefit restaurants, retailers, and delivery services, which increasingly rely on gig economy workers, especially during peak seasons. Furthermore, this bill does not alter existing safeguards regarding age verification and responsible alcohol sales. Instead, it modernizes outdated provisions and provides fair opportunities for legal workers while bolstering New Hampshire's hospitality industry. Just before she left, Senator Ricciardi said she's expecting an amendment to come in on this. Knows you're not executing this today anyway, but when you do exec it, to expect an amendment coming from her. Thank you for your consideration of Senate Bill 89.
Thank you, Ms. Bossy. No questions? All right, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, Mr. Summers, you are back. Please join us.
Good morning once again, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Mike Summers, President, CEO, New Hampshire Lodging and Restaurant Association. This was another piece of legislation we had approached Senator Ricciardi about. In discussions with liquor enforcement, it was brought to our attention that under the current statutory language, that it was likely not legal for H-2B and J-1 visa workers to serve alcohol, which historically has happened for many years. Many properties over the summer employ these visa workers, and they are in serving capacities, bartending capacities, et cetera. So we had approached Senator Ricciardi to see if we could fix that little piece of it, just to clarify that those, provided you're legally authorized to work in the United States, you would be able to serve alcohol. I do have the language that we have worked on with liquor enforcement that is an update, and I'm happy to submit that for the committee. But ultimately, what it should read is no person except a citizen of the United States or non-United States citizen who is legally authorized to work in the United States shall be employed to sell or deliver any liquor or beverage. I think that covers everyone we need to. I think it's relatively clean, and frankly, I think it's kind of a housekeeping piece because it's kind of always been that way, but in the clearest interpretation of the law, it probably shouldn't have been. So with that, I'm happy to try to answer questions.
All right, any questions? Wow. Seeing none, thank you. Appreciate your testimony.
Thank you.
No one else signed up for this one. Is there anyone who would like to speak to Senate Bill 89 who maybe did not sign up? All right. No one there. We will close the hearing on Senate Bill 89. We're going back into recess until 10 a.m. These are going way too fast. We should have put these at the end. Yeah, you just don't know.
I am just wonderful, Mr. Chairman. How are you doing today?
Good. We have 2 more minutes.
Oh, my God.
Yes. Yep. We run the trains on time, but not early.
Probably could have used that time to actually go get my suit coat instead of wearing
you
my
go.
vest, but that's okay. Morning, Senator.
Oh, yeah, tax question. All right. Good morning for a third time. I will pull Commerce out of recess and we will open the hearing on Senate Bill 79, and Senator Tim Lang is here to tell us a good story about it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the committee. I'm Senator Tim Lang from Senate District 2. I cover the Lakes region all the way up to Campton and Thornton. So the bill in front of you came out of a trip I took. So I was out in Wisconsin, and I was attending an event out there, and across from the conference center of the event was this nice bar. And in the bar, they allowed patrons to go up, and you go see the bartender, and you give them your ID and your credit card. And they swipe your credit card and they give you a wristband with a little RFID chip in it. It's a little radio chip. That radio chip allows you to self-pour. They had a wall full of taps with beer and wine and soda. And you could just go up and scan your RFID chip and then pour. If you only wanted 2 ounces, you only got charged for 2 ounces. You wanted a full glass, you got charged for the full glass. So it allowed you to sample and taste the various beverages that were there. At the same point, it kept track of you. At one point, I got shut off, but that was only because I was buying drinks for the table. And what they ended up doing when I went back up to the bartender to get my RFID chip turned back on, they assessed me to make sure I wasn't drunk. And then they came over to my table and they checked the people that were at my table and made sure they weren't drunk. And then they turned my RFID chip back on for more pours. It's done by the ounce. As you'll see in the bill, I think 32 ounces is the cap that's placed on that you could pour before you'd have to go back and do that secondary process that I did. We know we have a workforce issue here in New Hampshire. So I look at this as part of the hospitality industry that's been struggling to get people. This is a way for businesses to move forward and be able to have a self-pour system and focusing. The restaurant that we were in when I was in Wisconsin had food service, and you could, when you tagged your food service, it went on your bill for the waitress that was servicing your food. So you put in your order, and then your beer tab or your RFID chip was tagged to your order, so that everything was put in all at once. So again, you still had tipping and all of that kind of stuff. It wasn't looking to push the servers out, but it was just to make it more efficient, knowing that we have a workforce problem. And I view as knowing that about New Hampshire, I think that's a good move. The one piece I'll talk about that someone asked me about is on the last page, page 3, line 5. It talks about the licensee or the licensee designee shall record such verification of a person's age in print or digital log that should be kept upon the licensee's premise for a period of 3 years. The reason this is in there is liability. Again, you have the idea that if we were to purge this data and then someone claimed they were overserved, there would be no logs, no receipts, no anything. This would be able to allow them to show exactly how many ounces the person consumed based on their RFID chip for a period of 3 years, at which point then it's purged because the liability goes away. We hold bars and restaurants liable for overserving, and so that's what that is for.
Okay.
Happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions? Senator Murphy?
Thank you. Senator Lang, this legislation, was this model legislation, or how did you get this much text?
Sure. Thank you for the question. So I plagiarized it from Connecticut, which authorizes this, and Wisconsin, which authorizes this, and I took their laws that they did and we plagiarized it to try to work it into a law that would fit with all the other New Hampshire laws.
Sir?
Did you speak to the Liquor Commission and what's your impression of their support? I'm sure they're here probably.
They're going to speak. You should have a copy of it looks like the bill, but it says amended language highlighted. That's amended language from the agency. So they're in support of the bill, and they had some minor changes that they wanted, and that's what's in this one that says amended on it. It had to do with things like changing the word beer to beverage.
Gotcha.
Right? And for various reasons relative to different types of licensees, that makes a difference.
Thank you.
Senator Reed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Innocent, thank you, Senator Lang, for taking my question. Perhaps the Liquor Commission is going to address this, though, but your words were, they can tell the number of ounces that you've consumed. And in fact, your scenario that you used was not the number of ounces you consumed. It's the number of ounces you brought for yourself and other people. So the system I think the system allows for fraud, I think it is what I'm saying. In fact, the person that maybe stopped for a DWI, when they go back and look at those records that are going to be held for 3 years, it's going to see that you consumed 32 ounces and then were given another shot at pouring more. But in fact, you had shared that with the table.
Thank you for the question. So again, the same issue would happen now with credit card receipts, right? If they went back and looked at your credit card receipt for what you were charged for, and you said that charged you for 47 beers, well, you didn't consume 47 beers, but maybe you had a table of 12 people that consumed 47 beers, right? So you wouldn't be able to know that anyway, either way. So I don't know that there's a fraud component to it, but it does, that would be something someone would have to deal with.
Follow up?
In the case of a server bringing that to the table, they're putting a glass in front of certain people that could be an underage person, could be somebody that appeared to be overserved already, and they would have eyes on the situation to make that to avoid that, where if you're going up and getting the alcohol each time for the table of people you're with, you're not making any of those determinations along the way.
So thank you for the question. Again, bad actors are going to be bad actors. Nothing would stop me from sitting at a table and ordering a beer and then giving it to my 16-year-old son who's sitting at the same table with me if I wanted to, right? It's the agencies, it's against the law. I broke the law, and nothing's going to stop that if I really want to do that, right? So, but again, there are still servers involved, right? This isn't an empty bar with just a machine, right? There's still people involved that are going to be watching what's going on within the restaurant.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Senator Lang? Senator McGill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator Lang, for taking my question, for bringing the bill. I think I was with you at that establishment.
You were,
in
but I wasn't going to say that.
in Milwaukee. So would this method allow for a wider variety of options without the burden of adding so many more staff that it wouldn't be a viable economic option for the establishment?
Absolutely. So again, think of the idea of the way it worked at the place we were at was there's a wall of taps that had all kinds of IPAs and all kinds of lagers and stouts, and it was just a wall of taps, and it would allow you to be able to pick any one of those. So you could have a wider variety of service, and at the same point, I never had a stout before. I want to try it, but I only have to pay for an ounce or 2 ounces to try it rather than pay for ordering a full beer, right? And I don't like that. I'm going to pour that one out and go for something else. But it would allow that kind of activity to occur.
Yes.
Quick follow-up. In Wisconsin or Connecticut or any other states that have adopted this type of service model, are you aware of any of the problems described by my good friend, the senator from Concord?
So I did reach out to, and I'm not aware of any, and I'm sure Liquor did some of their due diligence as well. But I did reach out to a couple lawmakers in those states to ask about that very question. Like when you implemented this, was there any big uptick in DWIs? Was there anything like that? And nothing was reported back to me.
Thanks.
All right. Any further questions? All right. Thank you, Senator. Appreciate it very much. 2 others signed up, but did not indicate that they would like to speak. We have Scott Scher from New Hampshire Beer Distributors and Mike Summers again. Anybody who would like to speak to Senate Bill 79, please. morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and honorable committee members. We didn't sign in just because the commission is neutral on this. We have been speaking with Senator Lang. And for the record, I know we all know each other. Chief Mark Armaganian, Director of Liquor Enforcement and Licensing. With me here today is Deputy Chief Danielle Elston, Deputy Director of the same entity. We already do this by rule. What Senator Lang is doing is codifying what we do in rule. And I know there's a lot sitting before me that are either in the industry now or have been in the industry or have taken a liking to being part of positive change in the industry. What we see this is the problems, as stated earlier by Senator Lang, the problems that exist now with the investigations we do, like you brought up, Senator Reardon, that they're going to still exist. And they're going to be, the deterrent is what we do now with what I hope all of you know now with this new liquor enforcement of the last 8 years is we do thorough investigations. Most of the time, you will see our thorough investigation literally absolving and going in the on behalf of the licensee from liability, supporting their actions. We have a lot of, there's 6,400 licensees in the state or in the state and out of state with direct shipping. I'm telling you that that group is very responsible. And the partnership we have now with that group is beyond reproach. So when these happen, like Senator Lang said, when bad things happen, whether it's self-port that has oversight, one thing we do appreciate, and you know, I have no problem, and I'm sure he has no problem hearing about it, is we know that Senator Lang has a background in law enforcement. We also know that he had dedicated and still dedicates his life in our partnership in doing working on bills such as this one for safe communities in a safe industry. I think all of you know, and so does the House, that we only regulate to that level. We don't over-regulate. We want the licensee to make their money, but we want it to be safe. And that's all we ask for. So if the safety valves are in place, if you will, we look at that as a positive, being creative and being positive with the industry moving forward as they move forward. We don't want to be stale in what we do, but we want to do it safely. All right. So the very good points that you brought up, Senator. We think that it's going to be the same investigation that is if something negative happens with underage service or over service. And there is oversight within the bill, which we didn't even have to ask for. Senator Lang put it in his language right off the bat.
Okay, very good. Any questions? Yes, Senator Murphy.
Thank you. How many licensees do we have already doing this?
I can get that direct number for you, Senator, but I am going to guess around 3.
3. I just haven't seen it. That's why I asked the question.
Yeah.
Follow-up question?
Yes, of course.
Can you tell me what chapter of your rules to find these rules in?
So these rules are good. The 7 series.
So the rules are specific to the serving and congregating of patrons, which is 17927, I think. I can get that exact statute. That allows the service of it. The way we have done this is by rule, we're allowed to put conditions on a license that is issued. So the licensees who have come to us with this business plan, we've accepted the business plan as part of the conditions of the license, put restrictions on the serving and selling, very similar to what you see in this. So they're licensed as a beer wine with the conditions that if they're going to have this set up, that they have to follow certain restrictions, it has to be monitored, it's limited to ounces. So that's the way that we've been able to get this proposed business plan into the industry to use it. So there's not specific rules on this particular setup here, but the way that we've used the rules is, again, through the rules, they can submit a business plan. We can put conditions on the particular license that is being issued. So we've allowed this to come in with strict conditions as to how they operate.
Thank you.
Good. All right. Senator Fenton.
And thank you for taking my question. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just curious about, line 22, about shall maintain constant video monitoring of automated systems.
Page 1, Senator Fenton.
Yeah, sorry, page 1.
Okay.
It looks like you're mandating 24/7 video monitoring of this system. Is that correct?
Yes, the system itself would have to be video
Would have to
monitored.
be.
Correct.
Follow up.
Follow up.
Could
Yes,
that be a
of course.
barrier to, implement the system if small businesses can't afford a 24/7 video monitoring system?
I suppose it could be, yes.
All right. Very good. Any other questions? Thank you both. Appreciate it greatly.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on Senate Bill 79? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 79. And in a moment, we will begin with Senate Bill 80. Ready? Oh, we got some fun people coming up on this one. Yeah, we're doing fine. Should get out of here by 11. All right, Senate Bill 80. All right, I will open the hearing on Senate Bill 80. And once again, we have the good Senator Tim Lang to introduce his bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the committee. Senator Tim Lang, and I'm still from the Lakes region and Camden and Thornton area. Before you have a bill that came out of a study commission last year that I chaired. There was a study commission that was looking at our tobacco tax and how it's applied and whether it was being evenly enforced. And one of the things we found was that one of the problems we had with the enforcement piece and the licensing piece was that we had two different agencies doing two different things. We had the Department of Revenue who was doing the licensing of our wholesalers for tax purposes. And then we had our liquor enforcement doing the licensing of the retail vape shops and cigarette shop, tobacco shops. And sometimes, again, as you're trying to work through two agencies trying to work together, we don't know whether or not the retail store who bought a product bought it from a licensed proper wholesaler that was paying the New Hampshire taxes. And there was some, and then if liquor thought for some reason that was the case, they would have to transfer the case to DRA, who would then have to perform a different investigation to figure out what was going on there. So the commission that I chaired last year decided we need to consolidate the enforcement and licensing so that it's a smoother, cleaner process for the state of New Hampshire. And that's what this bill does. We determined that there was, in fact, probably people who were absconding from paying the tax and were avoiding paying the tax, and yet their products were showing up in our vape shops. And so by doing this, it gives liquor a cleaner enforcement mechanism to be able to take the retail to make sure we're collecting the appropriate tax, deal with the appropriate health issues that we use that tax for. You'll see there's an amendment that was provided to the committee. This was an amendment after working with the agency, with liquor and DRA were working together. I got the finalized language and I gave it to DRA, to both agencies, and DRA came back with some minor changes. Mainly it's involved changing the word licensee to tobacco tax certificate. You'll see that change like 50 times throughout the bill, and it has to do with marrying up again our tobacco laws with the way we do licensing. So that's it. The whole goal of this is to just increase the regulation. The auditing still stays with DRA, the tax audit. So we left the one audit. We took away the licensing, regulatory and enforcement provisions, moved that to liquor. We left the auditing tax audit requirement in DRA. So they're the taxing authority for our state. So if liquor comes across something, they can transfer it for a tax audit, but not for audit the product and that kind of thing.
Okay. All right. Are there questions of Senator Lang? Seeing none, thank you. Appreciate your introduction. Alicia Preston is here and would like to speak. Good morning. Always a pleasure.
Good morning, Senator. Always a pleasure. As noted, Alicia Preston, I represent the New Hampshire Vapors Association. Thank you, Ms. Chairman and members of the committee. We are here in support of this bill. Just for brief background on the origin is, and this is Brett Scott, he's the president of New Hampshire Vapors Association. We worked with the legislature last year requesting a study committee of how the taxes are collected, because what's happening out there is too many people aren't paying the taxes. So a couple factors. That means the state is missing out on what we believe to be millions of dollars. And more importantly to the industry is those that are doing it right, members of our association, are getting undercut left and right. And consumers know where they can buy the product. They go to his store, they're gonna pay one price. They go down the block, they're gonna save significantly. And so their profit margins being decimated, and the people that aren't doing what they're supposed to do are making some good money right now. And so that's why we support this bill. I know Brett probably has more details.
Please, yes, Mike, there, thank
Yeah,
you.
Brett Scott, New Hampshire Vapor Association, and president of Smokers Haven as well. Yeah, ultimately, I mean, that's all correct. Right now, there's a major problem going on, creating an unfair market out there. And, certainly support these changes. I think it makes sense to put the enforcement and the licensing in conjunction with one another to kind of, ultimately align those, make it so that there is a presence in these stores more often to ultimately bring compliance and make a level playing field. So.
Okay, very good. Are there questions? Oh, you guys were thorough. Thank you both very much. Appreciate it. And the New Hampshire Department of Revenue Administration is also here. Good morning, gentle people, gentle person.
Good morning, Jennifer Ramsey. I'm Tax Policy Counsel for the Department of Revenue Administration. I had signed up to highlight issues that I think are now addressed by the amendment that Senator Lang just passed around. So I'm not sure I have anything to add unless there are questions.
All right, are there any questions of the department? Wow, great testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on Senate Bill 80? Seeing none, we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 80. But we are just cruising. And
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm Senator David Waters, District 4, to introduce Senate Bill 87 relative to one-day liquor license requirements and making salons and barber shops eligible for on-premise licenses. I first want to say how much I appreciate work with the Liquor Commission, particularly Chief Armaganian, working with constituents in Dover and the Chamber of Commerce that first brought this issue to me, and finding a way, I think that really makes some good sense so that we can have these kinds of tastings and events at for-profit organizations and to clarify where they can occur otherwise. As you may know from existing statute, we have nonprofit availability of getting one-day licenses for events. But if you were a jewelry store or if you were a for-profit art gallery or some other business that wanted to be able to take advantage of this and have a special event, you weren't able to do so. So the pretty standard language on page 1 about how these, the 500 patrons or less and the other rules that are appropriate for this that the commission developed. The second thing the bill does, you'll see down at the bottom on page 1 and the top of page 2, is by striking out that word license and substituting with approved by the commission. It means that there'll be more opportunities for other kinds of venues besides licensed facilities to have wine tastings. And last but not least, having accompanied my wife to the salon where she's offered a glass of wine and discovering that, as a matter of fact, and this happens all the time, right, in barbershops, as a matter of fact, there's not been legal authorization for that. And it's important to make sure that we have the appropriate language here so that practice, which seems to be rather widespread, is not actually running afoul of Liquor Commission rules and our laws, and we certainly don't want these business people to be suddenly subject to enforcement. So those are 3 things the bill does, and again, my appreciation to the Liquor Commission for finding language to make this work for our businesses. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
thank you, Senator Waters. Are there any questions? Just have one. Can we add dental offices to this? If there's a place I need a beer, it's there. All right. Thank you, Senator. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you. I have to go back to hearings, but if there are questions that arise, please let me know.
We will do that. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to Senate Bill 87? I assume the commission is neutral on this one? You're neutral? Yes, okay. All right, yes, Chief. Senator Murphy has some questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. Senator Murphy, sorry about that.
Are there any fees for licenses that are going to be assessed?
Thank you. Very good question. As you know, it takes money to get out the door, for lack of a better term, with gasoline and the people that we're actually bringing to the establishments to do inspections. So we did want to come up with a fee schedule. The deputy can actually speak of that because we've been looking at that pretty hard.
Okay.
Thank you. Right now, a cocktail lounge license, which this falls under, is $1,200 for the full cocktail lounge license. There is a tiered system within these types of licenses, whether you're beer, wine, liquor, or a cocktail lounge. The lowest end of that, I believe, is $480, which I think would be a more appropriate fee for this type of license. However, there are within this bill several different license types that I think would need to be addressed fee-wise, in terms of there's the 1 days for the for-profits that would be different than an annual license for our barbershop or salon. So I do think within this bill, the fees would have to be separated based on the particular license types that are in here. 1 day right now for a nonprofit is, I believe, $100.
Page 2, line 11. License under this chapter will authorize the holder to serve alcoholic beverages and liquor for free or for a fee. Does that not conflict with the existing RSA, which forbids giving away alcohol?
This is, mirrors the, you're on page 2,
Page 2, line 12, 11 and 12.
page 2 line.
I just don't want to have a conflict in the law.
No, so this mirrors other license types that do allow, because there's a limit, I believe, on what they can serve. This does allow them to give away alcohol for free, but they need to be licensed to do so.
And I have one last question. Of course. Thank you. If you read the RSAs, and I know you know them as better than I do, if not better, if not as well. So there is just this lengthy list of different types of licenses for everything from billiard halls to alpine luges to dining cars, where clearly now we're adding barbershops and salons, where literally everybody that's ever wanted to have a liquor license calls a friend who happens to be a state rep and says, can you please put in a bill to enable me to have one for my tennis court? And there's a tennis court license.
There's,
And I'm not making it up. Alpine luge, if you have an alpine luge, you can apply for an alpine luge license.
I've been thinking about
I'm not sure we have any right now, but can we maybe please work to have a liquor license
I can answer.
that is simpler
Yeah.
and not have 85 kinds of licenses?
I appreciate that, Senator. So when I came over from state police in 2017, I was tasked with that. And very quickly, even though we got our licenses down to, I believe, we're back up to 52, but we got down to 48. We ended up going back up again, and we were trying to get down. So at no fault of ours, it was what was being passed. And we did, all the people involved back in the day knew what we were being tasked with. It was one of the first things I walked in, knowing, not only looking at efficiencies and effectiveness, but also looking at how can we trim the fat here with the license types. It's not an easy task to take on, and that's why we're not recodifying the chapter. We're doing cleanups. You always hear us talking about a cleanup bill. We're doing cleanups because it's easier to do that. So if we do, and this is probably something that we need to get together on, if we do probably see some stuff that needs to be trimmed, maybe between this session and next session, we can do that and trim it down, at least get down 10
that would be
as a short-term goal. But we put heavy effort into that and rewriting every one of our rules in the last almost 8 years now. We just completed that, and now it's, we're looking to move to the next level, and this is one way we can move to the next level, is to kind of consolidate things, let's say. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
I think you have a couple senators here who'd be happy to help with that effort. So feel free to reach out. Okay, Senator Fenton, a couple of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for taking my questions. Just two questions. More curiosity as you understand the liquor licensing and laws that go behind it. As I understand it now, you can't serve liquor without food, correct?
Food in certain license type, a majority of the license types, food is required. A percentage of food, yes.
Follow up. Yes. But this one, it's not.
Correct.
correct.
And then second question, line 25, page 1, may suspend without warning any license issued under subparagraph if, in their opinion, such sale of liquor, beverages, specialty beverages is contrary to public interest. What would be that opinion where you would suspend that?
So the reason this is in here is this is a one-day event. So it's very different than if you had an annual license where if we were to suspend you, it would be a hearings process. So this is, we come to this one-day event. I can tell you we've never actually enacted this, but it is a clause where if it's completely out of control, let's say there's minors, let's say there's a definite public safety concern, that's where we could say, okay, the event is over and that's done. That's just a public safety clause for us in there, because it's only a one-day event. So there's no, the license is only issued for that one day for that particular event.
Follow up real quick on that.
Follow up,
Follow up
yes.
real quick on that. So this, you would suspend if you witnessed the event happening. This isn't, well, this isn't during the application process where you're like, hey, in my opinion, I don't like this. You're not getting the license.
No. This would be the license is issued at this point and we show up, it's there. There is a full application process that occurs. There's timelines that they would have to apply where if there was concern about the type of event that they were having, we would have the ability to refine those requirements or refine their business plan if there was a concern about the particular event. This is new for us. These are normally one-day nonprofit events that typically get these licensed. So this allows a for-profit event. But you'll see there's some bookmarks on there so that it's just not a free-for-all one-day alcohol event. There are some bookmarkers in place to limit the size of the event and who can apply for these one-day for-profit license.
And Senator, also, and you brought up a very good point. And Senator Murphy and I were just talking about it. You always have to realize that the process of application is the process of application, which means there's local control. So there will be sign-offs by the town, fire department, code enforcement, all that before we actually make a final determination that we're going to move forward with this license. It's a process. It's a process that we're pretty good at, that we can do quickly. Back in the day, it took about 30 days to do it. We're doing it in probably less than a week, probably 3 days on average. But that isn't cutting short any of our safety factors or local control. We don't want the city of Concord sitting there saying we had no clue that this was going on. At the same time, we want to make sure that whatever their disagreements are on it, that they're heard. And there's a hearing process for that also, if need be. There's due process.
And I note on line 11, there are a number of things that an applicant needs to do to begin the process and just to get to requesting that
Absolutely,
license.
Senator.
So it seems
Mr.
there are
Chairman.
good protections. So,
Yeah.
all right.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you both. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to speak on Senate Bill 87? Seeing none, we will close the hearing. Do I have a motion to adjourn? All right. All in favor? And we are adjourned. We will see you next week.